So here we are at the Universidad del Este in Carolina, Puerto Rico. We're having the conference for 2016 for Hispanic Educational Technology Services here at the Universidad del Este. And we're taking advantage of having so many important people coming over to our institution. And one of these people that I'm going to be interviewing right now, one of them is President Ricardo Fernandez, Dr. Ricardo Fernandez of Lehman College, part of the City University of New York system. Greetings, Dr. Fernandez. It's good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
When one skims through your CV and resume, one is left almost speechless in terms of the accomplishments, your professional accomplishments. Just to name the most recent one, quote unquote, you've been president of Lehman College for 25 years. If I understand correctly, you're the longest standing actual president in the CUNY system right now, am I correct?
At this point, yes.
Okay. And it was brought to my attention that after this long tenure of a little bit over 25 years as president of Lehman College, you're thinking about retiring. So
Indeed.
Okay. 25 years.
Yeah.
Let me first ask you a very general question. I must imagine that after such an accomplished career, and as a long-standing and recognized leader in the world of higher education, is it a bittersweet moment for you now with the upcoming retirement, or are you at peace with it? Do you have plans post-retirement?
Yes to all of that.
Okay.
But let me just say that,
Yeah.
of course, I've been thinking about this for some time, and it's not just my own thinking about this. My wife, who has been my partner for all these years and many more before that, is also retiring from her job.
Oh.
But she's retiring next month. I won't retire until the end of June.
Okay.
But yes, we do have plans. We are planning to move to Washington, D.C., where we have two of our children living, and they have each has two grandchildren. I mean, two children. So we have four grandchildren in D.C. We have two children living in New York City. So I suspect that we're going to spend a lot of time on Amtrak or driving between Washington, D.C. and New York City. So plans other than that, we want to do a little bit of traveling. We have a house, we have a place, a condo here in Puerto Rico. So when it gets cold in Washington,
You can just
we
jump
plan to
over.
spend significant amount of time here. But also, I intend to continue a relationship, I think, in some way, with the university. I'm not exactly sure what that relationship will be. It won't be a full-time position in the sense of an administrative position.
Yeah.
I may become a faculty member, and so those are some of the things that are in my mind.
I mean, I think that coming out of 25 years as a president, a faculty position seems like quite liberating just to think about it.
It is, because this is a unique category called university professor, which is a title that presidents who have served a certain number of years can have. And it involves just doing one course a semester. So, it's not the usual regular faculty load, and you don't have that many students. And I may end up doing a number of other things beyond that.
Great. Well, 25 years as president of Lehman College, I mean, to think about that almost challenges one's imagination in terms of our present juncture with this whole resignification of the space-time dimensions, the intensification of the rhythm of daily life, rapid turnovers and whatnot. So being president for 25 years in itself sounds like quite a feat. But moreover, but beyond that, I know under this tenure of 25 years, there has been a great number of projects that you have actively promoted, degree programs, facilities. I read about the Science Center, campus within campus, stuff like that. Is there any one particular project, degree program, partnership, or something that you've undertaken within that 25-year tenure that maybe you feel most proud of? Could you pinpoint to one specific project?
Well, that question, a number of people have posed that question over the years. And 25 years is a long time, and a number of things have happened during that period of time. But if I had to point to one thing that I'm most proud of, is the fact that during my 25 years, this is my 26th indeed, over 58,000 students have graduated from Lehman College, either with a baccalaureate degree or with a master's degree. And in some cases, people have obtained doctoral degrees in plant sciences because we have a unique program in partnership with the New York Botanical Garden. These people are now working in different parts of the world, but mostly in Latin America. 58,000 people, many of whom, most of whom, stay local in the Bronx. The Bronx is a different place, and it's hard for me to imagine what the Bronx would look like without thousands of individuals with the training and background now contributing to the economy of the place, to the culture of the place. I think that to me has a more lasting impact than anything else that we have done.
Yeah, that's actually a great answer. Thank you for that. I also read that you've been mentioned a couple of times by different media, magazines, and whatnot as one of the 100 Hispanic leaders in the area, and things of that nature. Have you ever felt pressure to find yourself as a possible role model or advocate for the Hispanic community?
Yes, in fact, this, of course, every year there's 100, and that's a changing picture. This happened a few years ago. I think, yes, when I came to Lehman in 1990, I was the first Latino, the first Puerto Rican, in this case, to be president of a 4-year institution, not just in the City University of New York, but in the state of New York. And in fact, to this day, 2016, the State University of New York, which is a bigger institution, doesn't have a Latino president. So yes, it's not that you set an example, but you set a model that people then can say, look, if he made it, maybe I can make it too.
Of course.
So when I talk to students, and I've taught for a number of years, some of them have asked me about that, and I always tell them, just continue to get a good education, continue to be a learner, and reinvent yourself every so often, because what life was 25 years ago is very different today. And the solutions that we applied for problems and issues back then don't necessarily work or work as well today, because the circumstances are very different.
Actually, that answer brings me to my next question, which is, what do you see as the main challenge or some of the biggest challenges to higher education during the present juncture?
Well, the world has changed, not just higher education. And I would say there are a number of significant challenges. One is that education, higher education in general, is now viewed by policymakers and elected officials as a private benefit rather than a public good. That is something that has changed over the last 2 decades, mostly. And instead of making it available at a very low cost, now the fact that many students have to accumulate significant debt to be able to get a degree is seen as something that, okay, you're going to benefit from this, so it's like buying a car. You know, if you want to buy a good car, you go borrow the money, you buy the car, and then you enjoy it. But you're benefiting from it. I think it's a very short-sighted view of higher education, because students, in addition to doing a job, they also are members of communities. They contribute to the culture. They contribute to the community and the growth of the city, of the state, of the region. And the creativity that is in these places is very much dependent on higher education. The second area that I would say is an important challenge is technology. Technology has changed the way we live in so many ways, and higher education is no example. I mean, no exception. Higher education now, this conference is talking about technology in higher education. How we teach, how students learn. The idea of, I see a lectern over there, the idea of standing in front of a group and just lecturing for hours and hours when I went to college, you don't do that anymore. I mean, some people do.
Or you could do that, but there's still a group.
Yes. So I think the idea of using technology, integrating it into, like, pretty much technology has to be like, we have light, we have water, we have connectivity. That's technology. We need that today. Higher education has to change, is changing, and will continue to change and evolve in ways that are unimaginable. One area that I'm very interested in now is the whole area of virtual reality. Virtual reality is a dimension that is only now beginning to be appreciated. It's out there, but it's very, very small. But think of a way of teaching using virtual reality. In fact, some medical schools are using virtual reality to teach surgery, because you can have a patient in a virtual way and you can actually do an operation. And if you make a mistake, you're not killing the patient. You are simply making a mistake that can be erased and be done over again, over and over and over. If you are teaching a class in art and you want to say, I want to be transported to the Sistine Chapel in Rome, in the Vatican, you can actually show the Sistine Chapel, and you can show the ceiling of the chapel. And if you want to go to that little corner over there and point out a little detail of Michelangelo, you can do that. That is one of the things that I think virtual reality will allow us to do. And it's unimaginable to me at this point. I don't think we really know what the full implications of that are. But we are now at Lehman entering into a partnership with a company based in California that has projects all over the world to produce virtual reality, to train people in the coding of virtual reality, because that's going to be, I'm sure, part of the future of higher education technology.
I mean, I'm listening to what you're saying, and the trekker in me is thinking that the holodeck in the Starship Enterprise would be a great educational device and technology.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Well, finally, I read that you did your BA in your first bachelor's in philosophy, a master's in Spanish literature in Marquette, and later a master's and a PhD in Romance languages and literatures at Princeton. And as someone who is also formed in the liberal arts and the social sciences of myself, and who is now in an administrative position, let me sort of ask you, were you able to find time to advance your own research in terms of your interests, particular interests, during your tenure as president, or did the administrative responsibilities really prevented you from doing that?
Well, I did. It's very difficult to teach when you're a president in charge of an institution 24/7, 365 days a year. But I did teach co-teach a class actually with a professor, a friend of mine. What happened was that he was co-teaching a class with the former dean of our School of Education, and he had a stroke. The dean had a stroke. So I jumped in to fill in for that particular course. And then I continued doing that for about 12 years. I really appreciated that because it gave me a chance to interact with students, from a faculty member to a student, and also to hear directly, unedited, comments and questions and observations about the campus, about anything related to Lehman from the students, which was very helpful because most of the stuff that gets to me as president goes through a dean, through assistants, and by the time it gets to me, it's been purified.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get the original data directly. But going back to the original question, my original plan in life was not to be an educator. I was going to be a medical doctor, a physician. My father was a physician. He was an ophthalmologist. And I did major in philosophy because I was very interested in that. But I also took the pre-med curriculum. So I had to take physics and chemistry. I had a minor in chemistry and mathematics and, you know, the usual stuff. I even got into a medical school, and then I decided that my heart really wasn't into that. My father was very disappointed, but I decided to pursue literature. And at some point, I switched over from literature into education. I have never in my life taken a course formally in education, but I ended up becoming a professor of education policy studies at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And I think that's, when I talk to students, I tell them, look, this is, you start here and you think you're going a certain way, but life will change. And some of that you control, some of that it's impossible to control. But follow whatever way where you can find your passion, the things that you're really interested in. So I became the director of a center at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, that the main purpose of which was to bring in more Latinos into the campus. Some of my colleagues at Marquette, where I was teaching at that point after graduate school, thought I was crazy. They thought I was throwing my life away academically. Oh my God, this is terrible. And I had actually taught courses, but I just couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. So that led to that, and then eventually I ended up getting an appointment in education. The only place I could teach in the School of Education was the Department of Social and Philosophical Foundations of Education because I had philosophy. So what did I do? I got a bunch of books and I started educating myself, reading sociology, history of education, education politics, and eventually I ended up being a professor in that area. So you never know what lies ahead.
Well, you have more time, though.
I have a little bit more time. And most of my publications have been in the fields of education policy. I wrote about bilingual education. I wrote about school desegregation. I talked about education equity, affirmative action. I mean, a number of very current kinds of themes. But most of my involvement has been directly in working with policymakers to change laws and to bring in and create programs that provide greater access and more achievement, quality programs for students. So I always tell my students, get the broadest type of background that you can get. Don't think that, we don't train you for the first job. We want to train you at this institution for the 5th job or the 10th job you're going to have in your life. And don't think that any program is going to prepare you for that because some of those jobs haven't even been invented. And that's happening. That's the world we live in.
So in other words, it's not out of the question a possible upcoming book on Spinoza or Cervantes or something like that.
Well, I think it was Borges who wrote a story about Pierre Menard, autor del Quijote, Pierre Menard, and he says Cervantes was a genius, and it was very difficult to write the Quixote back in the 16th century. Think about how more difficult it would be to write it now in the 20th century when he was writing. So Who knows? There may be a connection. Who knows? I'm open to it. I'm open to that possibility.
Well, it has been a pleasure to have you for this brief interview, Dr. Fernandez, and I hope you like your stay here at Universidad del Este. And we will always appreciate you coming back whenever you want.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. I also want to acknowledge the workings behind the camera of Radames Barreto, a member here of the working crew at the Universidad del Este. So we're signing off. Thank you very much. Saludos, tenemos aquí la grata presencia del licenciado Manuel Fernós, presidente de la Universidad Interamericana de Puerto Rico y actualmente desde el 2012 presidente de Hispanic Educational Technology Services, de HETS, que está actualmente llevando a cabo su conferencia inicial del 2016, teniendo como sede pues, la institución colega, la Universidad del Este, aquí en Carolina, Puerto Rico. Y pues queríamos aprovechar dentro del contexto de esta conferencia, pues tener al menos 2 o 3 entrevistas pues, con presidentes de instituciones postsecundarias, tanto de Puerto Rico como de Estados Unidos. Y pues dentro de ese contexto, el licenciado Fernós nos ha dado el privilegio de poder entrevistarlo pues, brevemente. Muchos saludos, licenciado, y gracias por dejarse entrevistar.
Muchos saludos a ti y muy buenas a todos.
Bueno, la primera pregunta se la hago en materia de su capacidad como presidente de HETS desde el 2012. ¿Usted puede hablarnos de las gestiones que se han estado llevando a cabo durante su estadía como presidencia en materia de seguir nutriendo la educación a nivel de instituciones secundarias y en términos de integrar nuevas tecnologías al proceso?
¿Cómo no? Mira, el consorcio de HETS agrupa universidades hispanas de distintos estados en los Estados Unidos, como es el caso de Nueva York, como es el caso de la Florida, como es el caso de Texas, como es el caso de California. Pero en este caso, el consorcio tiene el propósito de que colaboremos, que aunemos esfuerzos de cómo podemos usar la tecnología, de ahí el nombre de Technological Services, usar la tecnología para apoyar a los estudiantes hispanos en los estados que he mencionado, así como entonces en Puerto Rico, para facilitar tanto el acceso a las universidades, ayudarlos en su ejecución académica de forma tal que mejore la retención, el porciento de retención de estudiantes hispanos en los Estados Unidos, y que mejore por ende también entonces la tasa de graduación de estudiantes hispanos. Para ello, pues el consorcio que agrupa 34 universidades hispanas de los Estados Unidos, así como las de Puerto Rico, y también algunos miembros corporativos, como es Blackboard, todas las compañías Oracle que dan servicios en cuestiones de educación virtual, servicios tecnológicos a las universidades, son miembros corporativos del consorcio HETS. Así que nuestros esfuerzos van dirigidos a proveerle una serie de servicios de esta software, de todas estas compañías que brindan servicios tecnológicos a la educación, y logramos de esa manera ofrecer estos servicios de una manera más económica a las universidades miembros, que a su vez entonces le permite a cada universidad que pertenece al consorcio a brindar un mejor servicio a los estudiantes hispanos, a la misma vez que no necesariamente estamos aumentando los costos de la educación. A ese estudiante hispano, que usualmente es un estudiante, sobre todo en el caso de Estados Unidos, que proviene de un nivel socioeconómico más bajo, y es importante entonces cómo llevarle ese servicio, pero sin aumentarle los costos de la matrícula. También a través del consorcio le damos apoyo a la facultad que tiene estudiantes hispanos, cosa de que ellos puedan incorporar de esa enseñanza tradicional presencial, que se vayan capacitando cada vez más y más profesores en el uso de la tecnología. De hecho, eso es uno de los servicios que le da HETS a los miembros del consorcio, donde pasan unos entrenamientos la facultad que los capacita para ofrecer cursos a distancia. Pero que cuando hablamos de cursos a distancia, hoy en día realmente no podemos decir que la tecnología está limitada para los cursos a distancia, porque la tecnología se usa también hoy en día en el salón de clases, en los cursos presenciales. O sea, que todas estas capacitaciones que da HETS no solamente ayuda a los profesores que están en cursos de educación a distancia, sino en todo el uso de la tecnología en el salón de clases. Así que es todo un gran esfuerzo colaborativo, y hoy estamos precisamente aprovechando la reunión bianual del consorcio para hacer lo que se llama un Best Practices Showcase, donde varias de las universidades miembros del consorcio tienen la oportunidad de presentar distintos proyectos que están utilizando para usar la tecnología de alguna manera en la educación. Te puedo dar un ejemplo. Una de las presentaciones va a ser sobre un sistema de seguimiento, un tracking system, de todos los estudiantes que son admitidos, y entonces el sistema va identificando, según todas las características que se le entran en la información a este proyecto, pues de qué escuela proviene, qué índice académico tenía, de qué nivel socioeconómico familiar, etcétera. Y entonces sigue al estudiante, a todos esos estudiantes a través de sus estudios universitarios, y va determinando, identificando cuáles son los factores de riesgo que afectan la retención estudiantil. Esa información es sumamente valiosa luego para la gerencia administrativa, para tú tomar medidas de apoyo a los estudiantes que el sistema identifica como alto riesgo de retención, y qué cosas podemos hacer para ayudarlos. Así que ese es, por ejemplo, uno de los proyectos que se van a presentar, y que entonces, a manera de chiste, yo menciono que esta es la excepción a lo que hacemos en la academia. En la academia no se permite copiarse los exámenes, pero aquí en el consorcio sí está permitido copiarnos uno de los otros en términos de cuáles son las mejores prácticas en el uso de la tecnología para fomentar el éxito estudiantil.
Pues muy bien. De hecho, muy intuitivo el licenciado, porque un poco me adelantó y me respondió a las próximas dos preguntas. Bueno. Pero bueno, ahora un poco pues lo reubico en términos de su óptica. Ahora un poco le pregunto desde la óptica de usted como presidente del Sistema Unitario de la Interamericana, de la Universidad Interamericana de Puerto Rico. Sabemos que el contexto, no solo en el mundo de la educación, sino en general, estamos pasando por tiempos muy duros. Vivimos todavía una crisis global que creo que cumple la década ahora. En Puerto Rico nuestra crisis económica antecede por 2 años esa crisis general. Y pues obviamente eso impacta a todos los renglones de la sociedad. Pero dentro de los renglones que impacta, pues impacta ciertamente el mundo de la academia, el mundo de la educación, el mundo de la educación superior. Entre tantos asuntos apremiantes, como presidente de la Universidad Interamericana, ¿cuál usted cree que es el reto o los retos mayores a lo que se están enfrentando las instituciones postsecundarias en Puerto Rico ahora mismo?
Bueno, ciertamente tú lo has mencionado, el hecho de la crisis económica, que en el caso de Puerto Rico es mayor, porque ha habido un daño autoinfligido que nos hemos hecho en Puerto Rico y que ha traído entonces esta crisis fiscal al gobierno. Vemos los datos del censo que nos señalan que Puerto Rico en 10 años, pero sobre todo en los últimos años esto se ha acelerado, ha perdido medio millón de habitantes en su población, toda esa población puertorriqueña que se está moviendo mayormente al estado de la Florida, pero también se están moviendo a Texas y se están moviendo a otros estados. Y ello pues representa que baja la población estudiantil en todos los niveles, no solamente el universitario, porque papá y mamá se llevan a los hijos que estaban en escuela elemental. Así que esto está generando, y lo vemos en las noticias, como el Departamento de Educación Pública de Puerto Rico está cerrando escuelas públicas, y todo esto va a generar que menos estudiantes se van a graduar de escuela superior, menos estudiantes van a estar solicitando para estudios universitarios, y ya vemos, la información que tenemos del Consejo de Educación de Puerto Rico es que se están perdiendo a razón de 5,000 estudiantes anuales en el sector privado de la educación universitaria en Puerto Rico. Esto, claro, puede entonces, no necesariamente se distribuye por igual entre todas las universidades. De hecho, hay cierto tipo de institución universitaria, creo que el año pasado cerraron 4, se piensa que este año cierran 6 más, pero que mayormente son instituciones educativas de carreras cortas las que están cerrando. Así que vemos que las universidades tienen un gran reto por delante en Puerto Rico. De hecho, esa fue una pregunta que nos hicieron los comisionados de la Mid-State en una reunión que hubo en Puerto Rico con los presidentes de la universidad, y nos plantearon eso: mire, esto va a ocurrir en Puerto Rico, ¿qué ustedes van a hacer? Y obviamente nos va a llevar a que, por un lado, hay varias alternativas, ¿verdad? Una de las alternativas es tú decir, pues yo voy a hacer una reducción planificada, ordenada, en mi universidad. Esa es una posibilidad. Otra posibilidad es tú ampliar una oferta académica de manera que sea más atractiva, que atraiga más estudiantes. Otra estrategia es abrir a Puerto Rico, como lo se ha estado trabajando con el Departamento de Estado de Puerto Rico, el concepto de Campus Puerto Rico, o sea, convertir a Puerto Rico en un centro internacional de la educación que atraiga estudiantes del extranjero. Y hay otra alternativa, que es tú abrir centros educativos de tu universidad fuera de Puerto Rico, en Estados Unidos o en otros países. Así que, y la última sería una combinación de todas las anteriores. Así que yo creo que todas las universidades, esto es un tema que hemos discutido en la Asociación de Colegios y Universidades Privadas. Yo creo que todas las universidades privadas en Puerto Rico, de una manera u otra, están usando alguna de estas estrategias.
Sí, y yo no he leído mucho al respecto, pero sí entiendo que en el caso de la Interamericana, sí hay mucho ahínco y mucho énfasis en la importancia de expandir programas dirigido a la internacionalización de la institución, ¿no?
Eso es así. Nosotros tenemos varias estrategias. La internacionalización va desde el concepto de que el estudiante de Puerto Rico tenga ante sí un currículo que, sin salir de Puerto Rico, sea un currículo internacional. O sea, va desde ese aspecto, y que es uno de los cuales estamos trabajando, a tú tener también un currículo que sea atractivo para el estudiante internacional y que vengan a Puerto Rico. Y entonces ahí viene toda la serie de consideraciones que tú tienes que hacer, qué apoyo tú le vas a dar a ese estudiante extranjero, si tú tienes residencias estudiantiles para ese estudiante, que fomentar que venga el estudiante del extranjero. Está la estrategia que lo ha hecho ya varias universidades, Ana Geméndez, nosotros, que tenemos centros en Orlando. Esa es otra estrategia. La Interamericana está ya muy adelantada en los planes de iniciar operaciones en Panamá, la Ciudad del Saber. Y también pues están los posibles consorcios con varias universidades fuera de Puerto Rico, donde llegues a acuerdos colaborativos de doble titulación, etcétera, y que eso fomente la movilidad estudiantil. Así que, nuevamente, la Interamericana está haciendo un poquito de todo eso, y muy importante en un plan de internacionalización, educación a distancia. Educación a distancia, hoy por hoy la Interamericana tiene más de 50 programas autorizados por el Consejo de Educación, que cubren desde grado asociado, bachillerato, maestría, incluyendo un doctorado. Y tanto en modalidad en español como lo estamos haciendo ahora también, no tenemos 50, andamos por unos 8 programas que también se ofrecen en la modalidad en inglés. O sea que esas son estrategias que se están usando con doble propósito, porque no podemos pensar que la internacionalización, su único fin sea mantener balanceada la matrícula. Tiene un propósito académico también, sí, claro. Porque el tú tener en el salón de clases estudiantes de diversas nacionalidades enriquece la discusión en la clase. El estudiante puertorriqueño que tiene oportunidad de compartir con un estudiante de distintos países en el mismo salón, pues enriquece ese compartir estudiantil y amplía los horizontes a nuestros estudiantes.
Excelente. Bueno, pues nada, licenciado Fernós, termino agradeciéndole por estos minutos para compartir con nosotros en esta entrevista. Espero que sigan teniendo unas excelentes sesiones en lo que queda de programación de la reunión. Así que muchas gracias.
Bueno.
Y queremos reconocer y agradecer el trabajo detrás de la cámara del colega y amigo Radamés Barreto. Así que será hasta la próxima. Gracias. Okay. Greetings. We have the pleasure of having with us for a brief interview President Antonio Pérez of Borough of Manhattan Community College. The interview takes place within the context of the biannual meeting of HETS, Hispanic Educational Technology Services, here at the Universidad del Este in Carolina, Puerto Rico. And Dr. Pérez has given us the privilege of giving us a couple of minutes for this brief interview. Dr. Pérez, you have been, first of all, thank you for this time.
My pleasure. Un placer.
Gracias. You have been president of the Borough of Manhattan Community College since 1995, going strong now 20 years.
That's correct.
Which, as I was saying in another interview, regardless of the specific programs advanced during your tenure or the construction of facilities and whatnot, in these chaotic times of rapid turnovers and the intensification of the rhythm of daily life, having a specific position for like 20 years, it's a feat in itself, right? So, well, it is as well very much recognized, and I mean the Borough of Manhattan Community College, as providing for a large number of degree-obtaining minority students. So let me then ask you first, how challenging has it been for you heading an institution that caters to such a diverse population, diverse on the one hand, in terms that it has students, it has an adult population, a regular student population, you even have programs for upper-level high school students, and then on the other hand, differences also from the perspective that you cater to students from different cultural, ethnic backgrounds, coming from different social classes and whatnot. Has it been challenging?
Well, it's really, I find that my job is very one that's one of the most rewarding opportunities that one can have. I was born in Puerto Rico, and was part of that migration that left Puerto Rico to go to the United States. So that I grew up in a home where higher education was not something that was important. My mother had gone to the 3rd grade, my father had gone to the 6th grade. So it was a learning process. And I share that with you because it's not that dissimilar than the new students that arrive at our campuses. New York City is still very much a city of immigrants. And I'll give you an example of the diversity of our students, so that our population is becoming more and more Hispanic. We have of our 27,500 students, about 42% are Hispanic and growing. About 32% are black, not necessarily African Americans, many of them come from the Caribbean. 15% are Asian and growing. So we are, in essence, a minority institution of people. Of more than half were born somewhere else. So it's really, it's a land of opportunity. They represent 156 different countries. They speak over 100 different languages. So on our campus, it's a very rich environment. We're number 4th in the country in graduating minority students. So one consider us to be possibly a minority institution. My goal and the challenge has been that even though it's a community college, I want to offer our students the same opportunities that they would have if they were attending a 4-year institution where they're paying $40,000, $50,000, or $60,000 a year. That's my responsibility. I don't want them to have anything less than that. So that's my challenge, is finding the resources and finding the faculty and finding the administrators that will provide an environment for our students that when they leave our institution, they feel at equal par with someone who has spent a lot more for their education. So that means not only in making sure that they have the necessary resources, because the challenge in the United States and obviously in Puerto Rico as well, when students enter a community college, many of them come with challenges, like I did. All we did was speak Spanish at home. I was rejected to a 4-year college. I got a job in a bank during the day, and I went to community college at night taking courses. And that's a challenge our students face. But we're making sure that our courses are offered at an acceptable time that meets their needs, so that our institution, to meet the needs of our students, opens at 7 in the morning, we close at 11:30 at night, and we're open 7 days a week. We never close. So anytime a student needs to take a class, guess what? We're open. So that's the challenge I face, because I want to make sure that our students, who are many of them are working, a working population of students, have education accessible to them, comparable to the best education that money can buy at other institutions.
That's a great answer. Thank you. And it has been brought to my attention that during your tenure as president, you have focused heavily on the expanding partnerships, working relations, not only at the local level, but moreover at an international scale. What would you say, if you could pinpoint to one or a couple of cases, what would you say are the things that you are most proud of during your tenure as president?
Well, I've always looked to the future and to new ideas, and I try to project how the world will change. Yeah. Because as an institution in higher education, you have to be flexible. And I find that what I've been trying to do more recently is to provide all our students some sort of an experiential or an internship opportunity. Mm-hmm. The world has changed, and it's not just what you learn in a classroom that's important. Now employers are saying, what experience have you had? Have you ever been employed before? What skills do you have? And I feel that in addition to a degree, students have to be well prepared and have to be conversant in a particular field and can show that they can do certain things. Yeah. So by partnering with business and industry, looking for internships for our students in order to ensure that they have some prior work experience so that they can compete with those students from other colleges that do get internships. What you find the draw for many of the more elite or more expensive private four-year colleges in the United States is that students go in there with the idea that they're going to get some sort of an internship during the summer because of the relationships with their alumni. Well, their alumni have done well, they're fairly wealthy, they run companies, they do that for them. I'm saying for our students, we don't have that type of alumni. So we partner with the businesses to make sure we have a relationship, and they feel a responsibility. And I mean that literally, a responsibility to give back to the community, to give back to our students, and offer them opportunities. And I'll give you an example of one particular one. Citibank in New York, they have an internship opportunity in the summer where they only provide this internship for students in the Ivy Leagues like Dartmouth, Harvard, and Yale, etc. One of my foundation board members, people help me raise money, entered into an agreement with us that they would have 3 slots a year for BMCC students. Now you have to think about it. These are community college students going into a work environment, sitting next to kids from Harvard, Yale, MIT, whatever. Yeah. And so I sit with their supervisors during the end of their summer internship, and I asked them, So tell me, what's the difference between our students and the ones from the Ivy Leagues? And they said, none. They can't find a difference, which tells you that we have, even though they're not paying that kind of money, that we have the same caliber students. All they need is a push or an opportunity. And I was going to share earlier, many of our students have remedial needs. So they didn't do well in high school. You take me, for example. All we did was speak Spanish, higher education. When I said to my mother, I said that I wanted to go to college. And she said to me, mijito, ¿qué es eso?
Really? Like, yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
So, but we have students that have that drive and energy and perseverance, and all they need is a little bit of help. So we provide them with the remedial courses that they need just to catch up. And once they catch up, they take off because they can be as competitive. And once I provide them with these internships and job opportunities, they're going to go in there and do just as well as these kids who've spent a lot more money for their education.
Yeah, that's great. And well, you might have just answered partly the next question that I was gonna make. We know that we are in the context of a general economic crisis, right? In the case of Puerto Rico, which precedes the global one by 2 years. It's going strong for 10 years now, though, the economic crisis. And of course, that always impacts all sorts of things and practices in social life, and among them, well, of course, the world of education. But besides the general economic crisis, or compounded with it, what do you think are the main challenges confronting higher education during the present juncture?
I think it's the issue of relevancy. Unfortunately, in higher education, we move very slowly. I see a world that's changing, and I try to prepare the institution for that change. So that I'm looking at a student that's coming to our colleges that's now referred to as Generation Z. Not Y, not X, but Z. And that particular student spends 3.5 hours a day on their phone doing something which is not academically or related. So we need to get and find a way of reaching that student at the level they're at. So our whole teaching has got to begin to adapt to the student, not having the student adapt to us, because if we try to have them adapt to us, then we're going to be behind the times, because they're the consumers, they're the ones that are in the workforce, and they're the ones that see the world differently than we do. It's how we deliver our courses, so that, for example, in our institution, I am planning to offering more of our courses online, because our students are more adapted to using online. They want more free time, and many of them have had, for example, when the economy changes, and the U.S. has begun to change because it's gotten a little better and there are more jobs available. When there are more jobs available, we get fewer students. The goal here is, how do we become more flexible so that the students then can go to work and also take their courses. So seeing the student and their needs and trying to make sure that as an institution, higher education, that we're flexible. The next issue I feel is a major one, is that I think that the same way we had a housing boom where the value of homes went down dramatically, well, we're having a higher ed boom right now. Many colleges will close. Yeah. You'll find that the ones that are nimble and responsive are the ones that are going to be able to stay in business. And for those people who don't want to say that higher education is a business, if you don't run it like a business, then you're not going to make it. Because you have to determine what is the value of what you are providing for students and how much are they willing to pay. And then once they complete their education, what will they earn? Where's the correlation between cost, what they pay, and what they earn? And people are beginning to ask that. And this is why I've turned to trying to provide some more value, which are the internships and the learning experiences that will make them more competitive. But I think higher education it's going to be changing in the next 10, 15, 20 years. It won't be the same. And the need for a college degree will change because there'll be more certificate programs. Corporations will enter more into the higher ed business in providing for their prospective employees what they need, not what we think that they need.
Yeah, what skills they're looking for and whatnot. Right. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Perez. Thank you for giving us this brief time. And again, we are in the context of the present meeting of HETS early 2016 here, taking place at the Universidad del Este. While again thanking Dr. Pérez, we also want to acknowledge the labor and help of my colleague Radames Barreto behind the camera. And it's been a good one. Thank you. Till next time.